The air was thick with smoke and fear. The underground auction house was hidden deep below the broken streets of the old alien city. Bright lights shone down on cages filled with beings from different worlds, but none looked more afraid than the small, blue-skinned girl sitting in the back corner of her cage. Her name was Lariah. She was only 16 by her planet's time, but she had already seen more pain than most adults. Her arms were thin, her face tired, her silver eyes stared at the floor. She knew what this place was, and she knew what came. After being sold, loud voices filled the hall. Creatures from across the galaxy shouted bids, laughed, and drank. They weren't here to help anyone. They came for slaves, for workers, fighters, pets, or worse. Next. The auctioneer barked. His voice echoed through the speakers. Rare breed from Veltari. Strong DNA. Excellent condition. Guards dragged Lariah out of the cage. Her wrists were chained, her legs weak. She stumbled as they pulled her toward the platform. The light hit her eyes, and she winced. Standing in front of the crowd made her feel smaller than ever. She heard the whispers. Look at those eyes. She'd fetch a high price on Zarnies. Probably won't survive a year. Lariah didn't care anymore. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She had tried that before. It never helped. Then something strange happened from the shadows at the back of the room. A human man raised his hand. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with short gray hair and a thick coat. His face was calm, unreadable, unlike the others. 100 credits, he said quietly. The room went silent. It wasn't a big offer, in fact. It was insultingly low. But the auctioneer looked nervous. He cleared his throat and glanced at the guards. No other bids? He asked, surely someone will go higher? Nobody did. Maybe they sensed something off. Or maybe they just didn't want to challenge a human. Sold, the auctioneer said quickly to the human buyer. The guards unlocked Lariah's chains from the stage and handed her over. She was confused. Her heart raced. What kind of monster bought her for so little? Did he enjoy watching fear in silence? She looked up at him. His eyes met hers, not with hunger or control, but with something strange, something soft. Can you walk? He asked. She nodded slowly but didn't trust him. Why would she? Every buyer promised kindness at first. They walked through the halls, past cages and crying voices. He didn't pull her or push her. He just walked beside her. His ship was docked, nearby a small, older freighter with scratches along the side. As the ship doors closed behind them, she waited for pain, for commands, for chains. Instead, the man walked into the kitchen, brought out a plate of warm food, and placed it in front of her. Eat, he said. You haven't had a real meal in days. Lariah stared at the food, then at him. Why? She whispered, what do you want from me? He sat down across from her, not too close. His voice was calm. My name is Jack Marlowe, he said. I don't want anything from you. She shook her head. No one buys a slave for nothing. Jack looked down for a moment, then back at her. I had a daughter once, he said quietly. She didn't survive the war. You reminded me of her, that's all. Lariah didn't know what to say. Food? It was real. Warm, not drugged. The ship hummed gently as it lifted off. She was no longer on that cruel planet, but that didn't mean she was safe. Not yet. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat on the small bed Jack had given her. Every noise made her flinch. Every shadow made her worry. But Jack didn't lock her in. He didn't give her orders. He didn't even watch her while she ate. He just sat in the cockpit, quietly flying through space for the first time in years. Lariah felt something strange. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was the first crack in the wall around her heart. She looked at the door. It was unlocked. She could run. But she didn't. She stayed, and wondered what kind of man Jack Marlowe truly was. Lariah woke up to silence. For a moment, she forgot where she was. She reached for her old chain out of habit, but her wrist was free. No metal, no cold grip. She sat up slowly on the small bed inside the ship's crew quarters. There was a blanket on her, soft, clean, not rough like the rags from the slave cells. The air smelled of old metal and coffee, not sweat or fear, Jack. Marlowe was in the cockpit, sipping something from a cup. Staring at the stars outside the window, he didn't notice her at first. Or maybe he did, but didn't want to scare her. She stood in the doorway, unsure what to say, unsure if she was allowed to speak. Her voice finally broke the silence. "Where are we going?" Jack turned slightly. "Somewhere far from there," he said. "Somewhere quiet. You need time to heal." Lyraya blinked. "Heal." He nodded. "No one should live like that. Not you, not anyone." She stared at him, confused, suspicious. "You're not like the others," she said slowly. "No," Jack said, "I'm not." She walked through the ship carefully, as if expecting traps, but everything was open. No locked doors, no guards, no cameras, watching her every move, it felt. Wrong, almost like another trick, she entered the small kitchen and saw more food on the counter. Fresh fruit, bread, clean water, not poisoned, not drugged at least, she hoped. "Why are you doing this?" She asked again, "Why me?" Stood by the control panel, arms crossed. "Because someone should have helped my daughter the way I wish I could help you." He showed her a small holly frame. It flickered softly, showing a girl with soft brown eyes and a kind smile. She looked almost human, almost like Lyria, except happier, free. "She died during the siege of New Europa," Jack said, voice low. "I wasn't there for her, not in time." Lyria lowered her eyes. "I'm not her, I know," he replied. "And I'm not replacing her either. I just couldn't leave you there." Lyria ate in silence that day, still unsure of everything. But slowly feeling less afraid, Jack didn't sit too close, didn't ask her questions, didn't demand anything. He just stayed nearby, present, not pressuring. Over the next few days, she began exploring the ship. She found old books, tools, even a learning screen with Earth languages. Jack showed her how to use it, but only if she wanted. "You're not my owner," she said one night, testing him. He smiled slightly. "Nope, not even close." She frowned. "Then what am I to you?" He thought for a while, then answered, "You're someone who deserves a chance to live without fear." One evening, she tried to open the escape pod hatch just to see if it was really unlocked. It was no alarms, no punishment, no yelling. Just freedom. But she didn't leave. Something inside her had changed for the first time. The open door didn't mean escape, it meant trust. Later that night, a strange noise echoed through the ship. Her heart raced. She grabbed a metal rod and crept through the hall, but it was only Jack, fixing a loose panel near the engine. She raised the rod without thinking. He turned around just in time to see her. Startled, ready to strike, he didn't move, didn't shout, didn't even flinch. "If you feel unsafe," he said gently, "you can hit me. I won't stop you." Her arms shook. Her eyes burned with confusion and anger and pain, but she dropped the rod and fell to the floor. Crying silently, Jack sat beside her without a word, letting her cry. Lyria didn't remember the last time she had cried not like that. Not when someone cared. After that night, she started sleeping better. She even smiled once when Jack played an old Earth song that made the ship's speakers buzz. She didn't understand the words, but the sound made her feel warm. Her cage was gone. There were no locks now, but for the first time, she didn't want to run. The stars outside the ship moved slowly, like glowing dust in space. Lyria sat by the window, staring at them with wide, quiet eyes. She didn't know the names of the constellations, but it didn't matter. They were the same stars she saw. When she was in Chanzan now, they looked different, brighter, maybe even free. Jack had given her time. He didn't ask many questions. He never pushed her. Every day he offered small things, food, warm clothes, lessons on a learning screen. And slowly, Lyria started accepting them. She still didn't fully trust him, not yet, but her body didn't flinch as much. Her hands didn't shake when he entered the room. One afternoon, Jack walked into the lounge and found her watching an old Earth cartoon. She was sitting on the floor, legs crossed, completely focused on the bright images dancing on the screen. "You like it?" he asked, surprised. Lyria nodded shyly. "The animals talk," she said. "They're funny," he chuckled. "Yeah, That was one of my daughter's favorites. That name again, his daughter, Lariah finally asked. What happened to her? Jack looked out the window for a moment, his jaw tight. She died when our colony was attacked, he said softly. I was off-world, trying to find medicine. When I got back, it was too late. Lariah didn't speak. She understood what it meant to lose someone, to be too late. Her own family was taken from her long ago by raiders. No graves, no goodbye. She looked like me, Lariah said suddenly. Didn't she? Jack nodded. A little, yes, same eyes, same fire. Lariah frowned. So, that's why you saved me. No, he said firmly. I didn't save you because of who you remind me of. I saved you because you were about to be destroyed, and I couldn't let that happen again. It's not to anyone. Lariah stared at him, trying to read the truth behind his words. And this time, she didn't see a lie. Later that evening, she sat at the table while Jack cooked. The smell of warm soup filled the small kitchen. Her stomach growled, but she stayed silent, waiting for permission. Sit, Jack said with a smile. No waiting needed here. This is your home too, for as long as you want it to be. That word home made her pause. She had never had one before as they ate. Jack asked if she wanted to learn how to read Earth. Languages, Lariah hesitated. I'm not smart, she muttered. That's nonsense, Jack replied. You survive things most can't imagine. It takes a sharp mind. He started slow, one letter at a time, one word each day. Lariah wrote shaky letters on a tablet screen, sometimes wrong, sometimes backwards, but Jack never yelled, never sighed, just corrected gently. You're getting it, he said once, after she spelled star on her own. She smiled so faintly it almost didn't show. But not all days were good. One night, a strange alarm blared through the ship. Lariah panicked, her heart raced. She dove under the table, trembling like she used to when punishment came. Ack rushed in and turned off the alarm. It was only a warning, something about fuel pressure. He found her hiding, her body shaking hard. It's okay, he said softly, kneeling beside her. It's just a noise. No one's coming to hurt you, I thought. I thought it was a test. She whispered. They used to fake alarms. Then beat us if we moved wrong. Jack sat with her on the floor, not saying anything, just letting her speak. And for the first time, she told someone about the cages. The whips, the cold rooms, the screams. He listened, really listened. She didn't cry, not that time. Her voice was quiet but steady. After that night, things shifted again. She started helping Jack fix small parts of the ship. He showed her wires, tools, how engines hum when they're healthy. She even asked to cook once burned everything, but laughed when Jack ate it anyway. Not bad, he joked. Chewing something that looked like rubber could use. A little less fire, and she laughed again, a real laugh. Short and unsure but real. It was the first time in years she had felt something more than fear or pain. Lariah was still learning what it meant to be free. She still jumped at loud noises, still had nightmares, but she also learned how to write her name in 2 languages. She learned that she liked sour fruit, hated cold showers, and loved music with strong drums. She learned that kindness could be quiet and that not all humans were monsters. Slowly, she learned how to breathe again. Asterisk, the stars outside looked peaceful. But Lariah had learned something about space. It could hide danger behind silence. The ship, the Wren, drifted near a quiet trade station, where Jack planned to refuel and collect supplies. It was supposed to be a simple stop, but shadows from the past don't always stay buried. Jack guided the ship toward the dock. Lariah sat beside him in the co-pilot's seat. She had learned how to read some ship systems. Her fingers no longer shaking when touching controls. You're doing better every day, Jack said with a soft smile. Lariah blushed slightly. Only because you taught me. They exchanged a glance, one of trust, of something slowly becoming a bond. But the moment broke when the CUM system crackled to life. Rent 37. This is station control. Your entry code is approved, the voice said. Please proceed to Dock Bay and stand by for inspection. Jack's eyes narrowed slightly. We weren't due for inspection, he said under his breath. Lariah's stomach twisted. Something felt wrong. Too formal, too forced. They landed anyway. Cautiously, Jack told Lyraya to stay inside the ship while he met with the officers. She wanted to argue, but one look at his face told her this wasn't the time. From the ship's small observation screen, Lyraya watched Jack walk toward 3 uniformed men, but something was off. Their movements were too smooth, their body armor not standard station issue. Then her blood ran cold. Behind one of the officers stood a tall alien with yellow eyes and dark armor. She recognized him instantly, Thorin, one of the bounty hunters who worked for her former master. He was known for tracking escaped slaves across systems, and he never failed. Lyraya backed away from the screen, her breathing fast. Her hands shook as old memories clawed their way back. Chains, beatings, her cage in the dark. She had to warn Jack. Before she could run out, the ship's side door hissed open. Jack. She called, but it wasn't him. Thorin stepped into the hallway, his long fingers resting on the weapon at his side. He smiled coldly. "There you are," he said. "You've been a very expensive problem, little Veltari." Lyraya froze. Trapped between fear and anger, she glanced at the emergency panel Jack had shown her last week. Her heart raced. "Where's Jack?" she asked, voice shaking. "He's occupied," Thorin said, stepping closer. "Come quietly, and I won't break anything." But Lyraya didn't move. Her mind raced back to everything Jack had taught her about courage, about choice. She lunged toward the panel and slammed the red button. An alarm blared through the ship, and metal doors snapped shut between her and Thorin, locking him inside the hall. She grabbed the cum and shouted, "Jack!" "He's inside. It's Thorin." Outside, Jack was already fighting. One of the fake inspectors pulled a plasma blade, but Jack wasn't just a pilot. He had fought in the Europa War. He disarmed the man with a quick twist and dropped him with a hard punch. The others turned to attack. But now the station alarm screamed through the Beleria's signal had triggered emergency lockdown. Thorin fired at the inner door, but it held. Lyria backed toward the cockpit, her hands shaking. As she activated the ship's internal defenses, Jack had said they were only for emergencies. This was one. The ship's automated voice announced. "Hostile detected, initiating defense protocol." A hidden turret slid from the ceiling and fired a stun blast at Thorin, slamming him against the wall. He fell, groaning, unconscious. Moments later, Jack burst through the side hatch, bruised but alive. "You okay?" he shouted. Lyraya nodded, breathing hard. "I locked him in. He came for me." Jack moved quickly, locking down the ship's doors and overriding station control. "We're leaving now," as they lifted off. Lyraya sat in the co-pilot seat, fists clenched. Her body trembled, but not from fear, not anymore, from rage. "He found me," she said. "They're still looking for me." Jack glanced at her. "They'll never touch you again," he said, voice hard. Lyraya looked at him, really looked at him. This wasn't just a kind stranger anymore. This was someone who would fight to protect her, someone who had bled for her freedom. "I don't want to run forever," she said, quietly. "I want to fight back." Jack nodded slowly. "Then we'll teach you how." Outside the window, the stars no longer looked peaceful. They looked like a battlefield waiting to begin, and Lyraya was done being afraid. The blue planet came into view slowly through the ship's main window. It wasn't large or glowing like some of the giant gas worlds they had passed, but it felt warm, alive. Jack leaned back in his seat, eyes on the familiar sight, Earth. He said softly, "Home." Lyraya sat beside him, hugging her knees. Her heart was unsure. She had never been to a planet where people didn't own others. Could a place like that really exist? Jack landed the ship on the edge of a quiet town surrounded by forests and hills. It was a human farming settlement, small, peaceful, the kind of place where time moved slower, where no one asked too many questions. As they stepped out of the ship, birds chirped overhead, the wind smelled of soil and sunlight, not oil or blood. Lyraya squinted at the sky. It was bright, too bright. "Why'd you bring me here?" she asked. "Because no one's hunting you here," Jack said. "And you need more than just safety. You need a life." They walked down a gravel path to a small house, Jack's old home. It's wooden, slightly worn, but clean and standing proud like its owner. Lyraya paused at the front steps. Unsure if she was allowed to enter, Jack noticed and held the door open. "This is your home too now. Remember that, inside." Everything felt strange but calm. There were photos on the walls, a soft couch, shelves. Filled with real books, the kitchen smelled like spices and old coffee. Lariah touched a plant sitting on the windowsill. Her fingers trembled. "It's alive," she whispered. "Everything's alive here." Jack nodded. "And so are you." Finally, the next few days were quiet. Lariah explored the house, helped Jack with cleaning, and watched him fix small things around the yard. She met a few townspeople, curious but kind farmers who had seen aliens before, but rarely up close. A woman named Ellen gave her a warm loaf of bread. "Heard you've been through hell," she said gently. "If you ever need a friend, you come find me." Lariah held the bread close like it was treasure. She didn't know how to say thank you in Earth language properly, so she just nodded and smiled. It was enough at night. She sat outside and looked up at the stars again, but now she wasn't wondering how to escape. She was wondering how to begin. Jack gave her old clothes to wear, simple shirts, soft boots, even a small necklace that had once belonged to his daughter. "You don't have to wear it," he said, "but I think she would have wanted you to have it." Lariah touched the necklace gently, then placed it around her neck. "Thank you," she whispered one morning. Jack found her in the garden, pulling weeds with her bare hands. She was focused, determined. Her hair was messy, face dirty, but she was smiling.
"I like this,"
she said. "It's hard, but it's quiet." He nodded. "It's honest work later." She asked if he could teach her to cook human food. The first attempt ended in blackened eggs and smoke, but she laughed at the mess. And Jack laughed with her. That night, over a small fire, she asked, "Will the nightmares stop?" Jack poked the fire gently. "Maybe not all of them," he said, "but one day, I'll stop controlling you." Lariah looked at her hands, no longer bound, no longer weak. "Sometimes I feel like I don't know who I am anymore." He looked her in the eyes. "That's not a bad thing. It means you get to choose who you want to be next." She thought about that for a long time. Lying awake in her room, she used to be a number, a property, something to be traded, but now no one told her what to be. The future felt empty but also full of possibilities. In the morning, she woke up early and painted for the first time, using old brushes and colors Jack had stored away. She didn't know what she was doing, but the colors came from her heart. She painted a sky with two suns and a girl standing in a field with no chains. Her back was to the viewer, but her hands were open wide. Toward the sky, Jack saw the painting and said, "Nothing for a moment then. That's you, isn't it?" Lariah smiled softly. Maybe Earth wasn't perfect, and her past would always be part of her, but for the first time, she was building something new, not just surviving, living. The wind was calm that morning. Lariah stood in the garden, barefoot, soil between her toes. She was learning how to grow earth vegetables, strange names like carrots and zucchini. Jack said they were simple but honest. She liked that word now, honest. Her hands were dirty, but her heart felt clean until Jack's communicator beeped. He stood in the doorway of the house. His eyes narrowed as he listened to the encrypted message coming through. His jaw tightened, Lariah noticed. Her body stiffened like it remembered a forgotten fear. "What is it?" she asked quietly. Jack walked toward her slowly. "That bounty hunter Thorn, he escaped the holding cell. There's more, your former master." His name came up on several private channels. Lariah froze. Her hands dropped the gardening tool. "He's looking for me," Jack nodded. "And he's offering 500,000 credits to anyone who brings you back alive." Her chest tightened. Like invisible chains were wrapping around her again. She wanted to scream, wanted to run, but her feet didn't move. "I thought we were safe here," she whispered. "We were," Jack said. "Until someone sold our location the next day." They activated the ship's outer sensors. They avoided town, Jack warned Ellen quietly. Told her to stay inside and trust him. The little farm became a fortress, but not one made of stone. One made of silence, patience, and resolve. Jack taught Lariah how to handle a stun weapon, how to move quietly in the shadows, how to read the wind and listen for what didn't belong. He didn't want to train her, but he knew he had to. She was no longer someone to protect. She was someone ready to stand one night, as the moon hung low over the trees. They heard the soft hum of a cloaked ship landing nearby. Jack grabbed his rifle. Lyra grabbed her courage. Through the trees, shadows moved, 3 figures in dark armor, scanners in hand. One of them hissed in a low voice. She was seen. Here, the humans protecting her, just like they said. Lyra crouched in the barn's upper rafters, heart pounding. She watched the intruders slip through the yard. Flashlight sweeping, she whispered into the cum on her wrist. "I see them. They're splitting up. Copy that." Jack's voice came back. Calm but sharp. "Hold your position." But Lyra didn't hold. She saw one of the hunters heading toward the house where Jack was still inside, and she remembered the look in his eyes when he told her, "You get to choose who you want to be next." She moved like smoke, fast and quiet, dropping down behind the man in armor. She picked up a wooden pole, crept close, and struck. The shock of her courage surprised even her. The man fell, stunned. She grabbed his weapon before he could recover. Another hunter heard the sound and turned, but Jack was already behind him, rifle aimed. "You're not taking her," he growled, and dropped the second attacker with one clean shot. Only one remained, and that one taller. Crueler stepped out of the ship nearby. It was him, Lyra's former master. He still wore the dark robes of the slave houses. His face was cold, eyes full of control, hatred, and greed. "There you are," he said, smiling at her like she was still in chains. "My little investment." Lyra felt her knees weakened, but only for a moment. Then she stepped forward. "I'm not yours," she said. He laughed. "You think a farm and a broken human make you free? You're just a runaway with good luck." "No," Jack's voice said behind her. "She's a survivor with strength." The master raised a weapon, but Lyra raised hers faster. Jack had taught her well. She didn't shoot to kill, only to stop. A clean shot hit the master's wrist. His weapon clattered to the ground. He screamed in rage, lunged toward her, but she didn't run. This time he fell to her. To her strength, to her choice. When it was over, the local Earth authorities took the men into custody. Jack sent silent messages to old military contacts enough to ensure no bounty hunter would touch them again. Later that night, Jack and Lyra sat by the fireplace, silent, tired, but alive. "You didn't run." Jack said softly, "Even when he came, I did run," she whispered, "but not away. I ran toward who I wanted to become." He looked at her, proud. "And who is that?" She thought for a moment, then smiled. "Someone free, someone strong, someone who's never going back in a cage again." The skies over Earth were quiet again. The sun rose slowly behind the hills, casting gold over the field Jack once tended alone. Now it was different. 2 sets of footprints marked the path to the garden, not just one. Lyra stood in front of a blank canvas set up by the old barn wall. Her hands were stained with paint blues, greens, and shades of silver that matched her eyes. She wasn't painting stars today. She was painting faces, dozens of them, each one different, each one based on the rescued girls Jack and Lyra had helped since the day her old master fell. After the attack, Lyra didn't want revenge. She wanted change, and she made it happen with Jack's help. She sent a message into the outer colonies offering shelter, food, and safety to escaped slaves of any kind. Slowly, quietly, they began to arrive. Some injured, some silent, some too broken to speak. But all of them were met with the same thing, a place to heal. Lyra didn't see herself as a leader, not at first. But the others began looking to her because she had survived what they had. And she hadn't just survived, she had stood up. She had fought back. One girl, young and covered in scars, once asked her, "Were you ever afraid?" Lyra smiled gently. "All the time," she said. "But fear doesn't decide who I am. I do." They named the place the home field, a mix of Earth language and the Veltari word for sanctuary. Jack had offered to run it, but the girls voted they wanted Lyra. Jack watched from the porch as Lyra taught one group how to cook, another how to use small tools, and a few how to read and write. He didn't try to lead anymore. She was more than capable. One evening, Leraya sat beside Jack by the fire. They didn't speak for a while, just watched the sky together. "You know," she said softly, "when you first brought me here, I thought I was just a shadow of someone you lost." Jack looked at her, serious. "You weren't. I know that now," she said. "Back then, I didn't. I thought I had to earn my worth by being useful, by being good enough." She turned toward him. "But you never made me feel like I had to prove anything." "You didn't," he replied. "You never did." A gentle silence fell between them. Not empty, but full of unspoken respect and quiet understanding. Leraya looked up at the stars this time, not as a prisoner, not even as a survivor, but as herself, not a slave, not someone's replacement, just her. She wrote a message to the stars later that night. Broadcasting it from their small tower, her voice was calm, strong, and sent in multiple languages across known space. "My name is Leraya of Elteri," she said. "I was born in a cage, raised in fear, and sold like a tool. But I am not what they made me. I am free, I am alive, and I am not alone. If you hear this and you are hiding, running, or afraid, come find us. We have room, we have light. You are not forgotten." The next week, another ship arrived, and then another, and another, soon. The home field became more than just a safe house. It became a symbol, a place where broken wings could learn to fly again. Liera painted another picture, this one of a small girl standing on a rock. Her arms raised to the sky behind her. 100 different people of every color, species, and shape stood together, smiling at the very top of the painting. In bold earth lettering, she wrote, "No cages remain where courage walks free." Jack framed it and hung it in the main hall years later. When historians asked where the rebellion against the slave trade really began, they didn't name a battle. They didn't name a government. They named a farm and a girl who learned to fight with hope instead of hate, and her story became legend, not because she was perfect, but because she chose to live her way. Her name was Leraya, and she was never a slave again.